the biggest thing is just, like you said, the education, like what you just said, the education side of it, talking them through it, coming up with, a plan together, and also realizing that if you try to go change a ton of variables at one time, it's going to be really hard to see what's working and what's not. So that's one thing that I do, like with my coaching clients, whether it's one-on-one or in the group coaching. It's all about, first of all, meeting you where you're at and seeing kind of an overhaul of like, okay, what does your nutrition look like? What does your training look like? What does your overall movement throughout the day look like? What are your stress levels? How much are you sleeping? How are you feeling? What are your hunger levels like? All of these things, these biofeedback metrics, we call them, right? We're taking kind of an overview of that and looking at that. And then we're saying, okay, here's where things are at, tracking things. I'm a big data nerd. I think, the saying, what gets measured gets managed, is very, very true, especially when it comes to these types of things. If you're just kind of, going about it and you're not taking notes of anything, you don't have any way of tracking the data, it's going to be really, really hard to see, again, first of all, where you're at, but then also when you do start to implement different things, what's actually working. If you have no data, if you have no strategy or structure behind that, it's going to be super frustrating, and you're going to feel like you're spinning your wheels, honestly. So I think the biggest thing is, making sure that we have the objective data, because that's where it comes back to the psychological side of things. If people can start to see objectively, like on paper, so to speak, the numbers changing and the things changing from like a data standpoint, even if it's not caught up subjectively, if they're still in that psychological, like, hardship, right? Once you start to see things actually change from a data perspective, it's like that doesn't lie, right? The data doesn't lie, as long as you know how to interpret it correctly, right? So I think that's the biggest thing that I work with my clients, is teaching them how to gather this data from a standpoint that, it can fit into their lifestyle. It's not like, oh, you have to, overhaul everything and track every little thing, like throughout your whole day for the rest of your life. Like, I'm not saying that. But there are systems and structures in place that can help you to see the things that are objective versus, trying to implement changes from a standpoint where it's just, how you're feeling or subjectively. Because there's so many things that can skew that, right? So I think that's the biggest thing that I use, is the objective data and the objective metrics, because it takes out all of the noise and you literally just see, okay, this is what's happening. And, if we're starting to implement carbohydrates, for example, if they're coming off of keto and we're a month or two in and they start to see that scale trend down, they start to see those body tape measurements trend down, they start to see their sleep get a little bit better, maybe their cravings are actually coming a little bit under control as they're implementing more whole food carbs. Those are the things that we can see, and that's what really kind of has that buy-in.